All right, let's get this party started. If you can hear me okay, for those who are catching me live, let me know that you can hear me. Oh, come on. All right, you guys, we're about to get started. I need someone to give me a check. Somebody catch me live. Just go in the comments and say, Robert, I hear you loud and clear. Okay, Sharon, thank you very much. Sharon says, I hear you loud and clear, and that means that we can get this party started. Oh! Ugh. All right, Eugenia, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. This is going to be a good session, you guys. This is going to be a good session. It's going to be good. All right. I'm going to let it come to an end. All right. So for those of you who are here, I want to say thank you for catching me live. For those of you who are catching the replay, hey, I'm glad you're catching the replay. We are going to do a Beyond Food as Medicine. Now, you may be thinking, well, I'm just not hearing about this. Well, if you're just not hearing about it, we had a live virtual conference, and that conference was absolutely outstanding. Meaning for those who were there, who were able to attend live, they learned things that will be with them for the rest of their lives. And they learned things that can help them help other people. Now, if you're a nurse, if you're a dietitian, if you're a nutritionist, if you're a school teacher, if you're just someone who actually cares about nutrition and you actually want to give good advice to people, that was a good one. That was a good one. Now, the good news is that you can still access everything that we went over. Well over 10 hours of information, and we're adding even more. So you can go and just get Food as Medicine. There is a link provided. You can also email my assistant, Lori at dietfreelife.com. Lori at dietfreelife.com. You can email me, Robert at dietfreelife.com. Or someone who shared this with you, ask them. And you can have full access to our Food as Medicine conference, course, and certification. Now, what I'm going to do in this short time today, like right now, I'm going to give you insights, like kind of like I'm going to take you inside and share with you additional information that we didn't fully go into great detail during the Food as Medicine conference. However, everything that I'm sharing right now will be added to the bonus section when you log into Food as Medicine. So you can watch this, download certain information. We're going to make more things available. All of this is available to you. Okay? All right. So let's dive in. Let me just say hello to a few people who are here. Well, one, I want to say, Sharon, thank you for hearing me loud and clear. I appreciate you. Eugenia McCallister, I'm glad you are here as well. Some of you who are in our private groups, if you text something, if you don't put dash in your name afterward, then I won't know who you are because it's private. So like, for instance, someone in one of our private groups says, hi, Robert, and I'm saying hi, but I don't know who you are because you need to do a dash and then put your name. Darlene, yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you very much. Claudia, she can hear me loud and clear. Sherry is here. Lisa Marie is here. Okay, well, you know what? Let's get into this. Let's get into it because there's some things I want to share with you guys that you may not know. And I want to reinforce some things to help you out as well. Okay, now, if you guys have questions, bring it. Bring your A game, okay? Now, first up, I have this study. And if you look here at the title, it says, we are burning fewer calories naturally. So there's this study that you can look up. It was published in Nature Metabolism. You can also find it on PubMed. And what they did is they looked at the last 3 decades. I mean, this is really interesting. Over the last 3 decades, we have this thing called the basal metabolic rate. Now, you don't need to memorize that, but it's good to know. The BMR, the basal metabolic rate. And what the basal metabolic rate is, in short, is how many calories we burn naturally, right? So without exercising, without doing anything, you wake up in the morning, you sit on the couch all day, you're still burning calories. This is our basal metabolic rate. Now, over the last 3 decades, in this study that I'm highlighting, they discovered, the researchers, that we're burning less calories than we did 30 years ago. However, we're more active today than we were 30 years ago. So people are exercising more, which would say, okay, we're burning more calories. But at rest, we're burning less calories. Why do you think that is? Now, the researchers have a suspicion. I have quite a few suspicions that can be backed up with some real serious data. But if you think about it, really just think about this. You're burning more calories because we're more active. But yet we're burning less calories when we're not active. That would mean that everyone would be smaller and leaner, but that's not the case. Childhood obesity has gone up significantly over the last 3 decades. Obesity overall has gone up. So we're more active, which we can see that there's more health clubs, there's more roads, bike lanes, there's way more opportunity to be active. So that's substantiated. But why is it that we're burning less calories? What's going on? Okay. Well, I'm going to show you. Check this out. Let's go to the next slide. Take a look at this slide. I'm going to blow it up for you. Now, this slide goes up to 2018. And what you notice is that the green is our consumption of seed oils, vegetable oils, right? We consume way more seed oils today than ever in history. Soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, grapeseed oil, right? And we're specifically looking at a certain fatty acid called linoleic acid. So the oils that are high in linoleic acid, those are the ones of concern. Now, if you look at this graphic, you can see that from years ago now, over 100 years, we continuously increase our consumption of these seed oils. And at the same time, you can see that sugar consumption has gone up, but then it's been going down. So people are totally aware of that. But then when you look at obesity rates, the only thing that's in association or like that parallels the constant increase of our having excess body fat is the consumption of seed oils. And in this study, that is what the researchers are believing, is that the seed oils are causing significant damage to our mitochondria, our powerhouse cell, the cell that plays the biggest role in our being able to do what we do as far as get up, go for a walk, how we feel about life, our longevity, what we look like. Your mitochondria is the powerhouse cell. And what the seed oils have been demonstrating is that they create a decline in some of the key attributes of our mitochondria. And I just thought you guys should know that. Just another reason to avoid seed oils. All right, we got January in the house. What's up, January? I'm glad I know it's you. All right, so I'm going to leave the seed oils. Any questions about seed oils while you're catching me? Because they're everywhere. If you look at products that you're buying, you will see that seed oils are everywhere. They're like in everything. Like there's people who will put together a really beautiful organic-based salad. And everything's going good with the salad. All the leafy greens, the slow-carb vegetables, whatever else you add to that salad. But then you top it with a dressing that is highly infused with seed oils. Doesn't make sense. Okay. So I think we're good with seed oils. Are we good with seed oils? Because a lot of people just don't understand this. And it's very confusing. Because if you go to the American Heart Association or the American Diabetes Association's website, you will see that they encourage seed oils. Now, This is not a conspiracy. I can share you with the data. You will never see the American Heart Association or the American Diabetes Association speak to this because they know they're wrong. And most of the people are just managing their jobs and putting themselves in a situation where they can keep their job. And then when they're out, they're out. They don't want to ruffle feathers. They don't want to create more drama. But the exact same thing happened when it came to consuming cholesterol, which in 2015, they had to eat crow. You didn't hear them do a press release on it, but they acknowledged that eating cholesterol, like in egg yolks, shrimp, played no role in your having elevated cholesterol. Oh, man. I got a couple things I want to. So remember, so this is good for you guys to know, okay, what we just covered. Okay, let's go to the next thing. Let's talk a little bit about metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance syndrome. They are one and the same. You'll hear people say metabolic X. You'll hear people say metabolic syndrome. You'll hear people talk about metabolic markers. What they're doing is they're saying they're looking at people who have, let's say, elevated cholesterol, or maybe elevated triglycerides, or elevated blood pressure, or elevated, harmful markers that demonstrate that we're not moving in the right direction. Maybe they have an extended waistline. Maybe they have a significant amount of visceral fat. Before it was called metabolic syndrome or metabolic X, it was called insulin resistance syndrome, which makes more sense because, as you can see in the illustration I have here, okay, you can see that type 2 diabetes, before you get type 2 diabetes, you had elevated insulin. You were insulin resistant. Before you experienced those migraines, you had insulin resistance, elevated insulin, also called hyperinsulinemia. Various inflammation disorders, high blood pressure, erectile dysfunction. The precursor to all of this is insulin resistance. So what I want you guys to do right now is, for those who are really wanting to learn, I want you to take a breath and I want you to go, okay, the problem that's causing the problems is elevated insulin, which is a hormone, not elevated glucose, not sugar, insulin. Once you can get that's the driver for a lot of these conditions, then everything else I'm going to share with you is going to make way more sense. If you have a hard time getting that, I want to strongly encourage you to log in to our on-demand Experience the Food as Medicine conference. Gain the knowledge so that you are aware. Don't be like most people that I meet that think they know, but they really don't know. And we live in a world right now where we must learn how to navigate around understanding how to read a label. Navigate. We must navigate, not count on someone else to do it for us. Because if you count on me or you count on anyone else but yourself, then you're going to find yourself in a not so fortunate situation. I'm just a messenger who is really, truly 100% on a mission to share information that I know can help you today and for the rest of your life. Okay. So if we all get this part, the rest of this is going to be easy. So let's go back in time. So when I first came into the marketplace, okay, and I want you guys to get this because I'm about to eat a little crow. And some of you are like, what the hell is he talking about, eat a little crow? Well, I saw in the early 1990s that we had a problem with diabetes. It was very evident. And everything that I saw back then, like in 1995, and all the predictions of how bad diabetes was going to become, it's actually become worse. and it's going to get worse. For those of us who get to live in the next 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to see a whole bunch of negatives come to fruition as far as the health of our society. And not just in North America, but around the world. Now, when I first got into the space of nutrition, I knew that it's important that we manage our glucose levels. So if you look at what I provided here, okay, you can see that a person is eating every 2 to 3 hours, and their portions really count as far as how much they eat at a certain time and how long they go without eating. Now, I have helped thousands, hundreds of thousands of people lose weight based on what I'm sharing with you right here, as far as eating in a way where you don't let your blood sugar levels go too low and you don't consume too much of certain things that your blood sugar levels go too high. And you could get away with that. So that was my old system. Now, the people who I coach and the people that are being coached by some of our coaches, we're not doing this right now. We're not encouraging you to eat every 2 to 3 hours, because each and every time you eat, yes, we may be managing your blood sugar, but what we're not doing a good job of is helping you keep your insulin levels down, because every time you eat, you will get a bump in insulin. And if you have insulin resistance, then that sets you up where you can't really burn fat and weight loss becomes very challenging. Now, if you've lost weight eating every 2 to 3 hours, that's because you didn't have insulin resistance at the time. However, there's a lot of data that makes me believe that there's a good chance eating every 2 to 3 hours was setting you up to experience insulin resistance. Okay. I know that's some deep stuff right there. Okay. So now let's take a look at what I just put up. So let's look at, there's insulin resistance and then there's insulin sensitivity. Okay. So insulin sensitive is when everything is working just great. And in this study, what you have here is you have 3 different foods that people consumed. They consume pure fat, pure protein, and pure carbs. Now, a lot of foods have some of everything in it. So it's very challenging to set up where a person can consume just pure fat. Well, when they consume pure fat, as you can see here, that's the blue line, there's a little bit of a bump in insulin. There's a little bit more of a bump when it's protein. And then there's a little bit more of a bump when it's carbs, right? So like broccoli is a carb, potato is a carb. If it was a processed carb, it'd be even higher. And I'm going to show you that. Now, notice when you're sensitive, within 3 hours, all of your levels come back down. So in 3 hours, insulin may have gone up, same as glucose, but you're back down. Everything is right where you want it to be. This is when you're insulin sensitive, meaning you do not have any insulin resistance. So everybody's there. Okay. If you got that, we're way ahead of the game. And here's insulin resistance. You could actually have your insulin levels floating around in your blood elevated for 6 to 10 hours. And why is that important to know? Well, when insulin is circulating, your fat cells stop doing everything, to include not releasing fat to be burned. So a person could lose weight, let's say on a program like Octavia, where they're eating like every 2 to 3 hours. They're eating a lot of processed foods. They're consuming a ton of like seed oils, packaged foods, and they lose weight. Well, when you look at their caloric intake, they're probably consuming maybe 800, less than 1,000 calories. So the weight that they're losing is not fat weight because their insulin's elevated, right? So the weight loss that those people are experiencing is water and skeletal muscle for the most part. You don't want to lose skeletal muscle. Now, their ignorance may have them experiencing bliss, because when you don't know, you don't know, right? So if a person loses 20 pounds And let's say 18 of that weight that she lost on the scale is coming from her skeletal muscle and water. She doesn't know. And she doesn't know that she took herself one step closer to a whole bunch of heartache and hardships when it comes to her health. Because when you lose skeletal muscle, you age faster. You're more susceptible to not living if you were diagnosed with diabetes. You increase your risk of heart attack by 300%. So many things are worse for you when you lose skeletal muscle, but people aren't informed about this. So they don't know. They monitor their success based on the weight on the scale. Now, I've had clients, and they're not my clients. Some of them have become my client again. And my goal is to get my clients to realize this. This is one of the benefits of having a coach. Someone who can inform you and guide you so that when you are losing weight, you're losing the right weight. You're not guessing. You're not putting yourself in a situation where things will get worse. You're putting yourself in a situation to win. I mean, everybody, if you are serious about losing weight and being healthy, get a coach. Get a coach who knows what I'm sharing with you. Do not let your coach go. It ain't worth it. Then you're on your own and you're just going to fall prey to a lot of misinformation. Okay. Anyway, I'm not here to preach today, but oh God. Okay. And so now to understand what I'm talking about, let's look at this. On the left, as we learn in Food is Medicine conference, you have the glycemic index. So when you only look at glucose, right? If you only look at the sugar response in your body, you will see that an apple and apple juice is basically the same. There really is no difference, right? And in the glucose world, you're like, okay, I'm doing good. But again, we're not talking about the glucose world. The shift needs to be about the insulin response world. So on the right, you can see that they're not the same. You get a higher insulin response when you consume the apple juice compared to when you consume the apple. Okay? All right, that's very important. Now, we all can agree that losing skeletal muscle is important. If we can all agree that insulin is the driver for most of these metabolic conditions people are living with, then we're on our way. The rest of my share will make even more sense. So let's take a close look. Let's dive in. At the very bottom, you can see that to the far left, we have fat. So a fat source could be avocado. It's like 85% fat. A protein source could be like chicken breast, right? There's little fat in it, little carbs. It's protein. And then a carbohydrate, anything that's plant-based. So I'm using berries in this example. Okay. Now, my coaches, you guys are going to want these slides, and I'm going to give you these slides that I'm sharing. Okay. So you can help your clients. Now, let's look at when someone consumes just fat, no carbs, no protein. What happens to insulin? Well, you get a little bit of a bump. Not much, just a tiny bit. And oftentimes there's no bump. So there's no insulin being secreted sometimes when you just have pure fat. Okay, whether that's pure butter, whether that's avocado, very little bump. And remember, we want to have insulin levels down. We don't want insulin levels elevated because then it blocks our ability to burn body fat. It totally hinders our ability to lose weight. It's not good. We want to focus more on insulin and not so much glucose or sugar. Now, when a person consumes pure protein, basically the same. Can you guys see that? Like, it's basically the same. Little bump. But when a person consumes carbs, whether it's broccoli or potato, you're going to get a much bigger bump when it comes to the insulin response. And that's not just because of sugar in the blood. It has a lot to do with your gut microbiome, your intestinal tract, which we teach went over it in great detail in the Food is Medicine course. So our goal and why we want to look at this is like, okay, I want to learn how to eat in a way where I don't have as much insulin circulating. And if I do that, then I automatically help myself when it comes to sugar or glucose circulating. Okay. So someone asked the question, what about peanut butter and the insulin response? Okay. Someone asked me that question. I don't know who it is, but whoever asked that question, what is peanut butter made up primarily of? Is it carbs? Is it protein? Is it fat? And then based on what I just shared, that would tell you what the likely insulin response would be. Now, I know that peanut butter is made up primarily of fat, but the government calls peanut butter a protein. I'll never get that part because it has 5 times more fat calories than it does protein calories. So it's a fat, the same as avocado is a fat, the same as butter is a fat. Now, when someone says depends on the type of peanut butter, okay, now we're looking at processed foods because Jiffy has way more things added to it than Laura Scudder's. Laura Scudder's is using peanuts. Maybe there's peanuts and salt. Maybe there's 2 ingredients. But some of these other ones, they have more ingredients, which is more processed. And when it's more processed, anything, you're going to have more insulin being secreted. Okay, I think we did it. All right, let's move on. So let's look at process. Oh, this is good. This is good. This could really help a lot of people right here. So what I did is I put together a table to look at the I don't know if we call this a transformation or like just to give you an example of the insulin response, not the carb response, but not the glycemic index, because the glycemic index, all of these are basically the same. That is not the problem. The problem is insulin. So when you look at an apple, a pure apple, the insulin response is really little. Can you see that? Okay, I want you guys to be able to see this. The insulin response is pretty little. So it can go all the way up to 100. So we're a little less than 30. If you eat the apple whole, there's nothing added to the apple. It's just an apple. Came off a tree and you ate it. So that's a very little insulin response. Now, once you slice up that apple, it's now been processed. Not heavily processed. So there's levels. That's why we're going in this order. But you did change its original structure from being whole, and all you've done is this, slice it up. As a result of this slicing it up, it causes a little bit more insulin response. Nothing worth, to me, an apple whole or sliced up like that with nothing added to it, they're basically the same. Now, when you make applesauce, you're now fully changing the chemical structure of the apple. It's no longer an apple. It's been pulverized into a sauce. And so that number is a little bit higher, over 40. And as you'll notice, the further we get from its natural original state, the bigger the insulin response. And this is where the problems come in. When you look at apple juice, because there's a lot of people juicing with apple juice, they're doing celery juices, they're doing carrot juices, and they're doing it to be healthy because everybody said, yeah, you should juice. Well, whenever you juice, you're going to get a bigger insulin response. So I'm going to stop right there just for a second because I want you guys to just really sit in. And none of this matters if you don't understand that elevated insulin is the root cause for the majority of metabolic health concerns. high blood pressure, migraines, PCOS, uh, concerns with heart disease, diabetes, gestational diabetes, like across the board. And some of this may seem odd because your doctor has never talked to you about your insulin response. They've only talked to you about your glucose response. And a lot of my clients will get their insulin checked. And at this very moment in time, as I share all of this with you, okay, the date is November 12th. November 12th, 2023. Most doctors are not checking your insulin. They're checking your glucose, but not your insulin. It's not their fault. They just are not. The data hasn't gotten to them. They don't get it yet. Some of them do. Many experts do, but a lot of them don't. So you have to become your own health advocate and get it done. Okay. So now let's look at the next one. We have an apple pie. 23% of the apple pie has apple in it. The rest of it is completely added stuff, added ingredients created from scratch. This is a prime example of the insulin response based on eating something close to nature compared to something far from nature. The apple pie has very little apple in it. It's got a whole bunch of other stuff to include seed oils, a lot of chemicals, right? So like when I see someone, they go, oh yeah, I got this low carb tortilla, but it's high in protein. I'm thinking, okay, well, Trader Joe's, I buy these corn tortillas. They have 2 to 3 ingredients. Okay. That's pretty close to nature. Not the same as something that I can pull right off a plant. But if I buy something that's high in protein, low in carbs, and all this marketing around it, but there's 20 ingredients, how do you think my gut is going to respond to that as far as causing my pancreas to secrete more insulin or less insulin? Am I going to get more insulin secreted with 3 ingredient tortilla, or am I going to get more insulin secreted with 20 ingredients? You guys let me know. I'm gonna see. Someone asked a question. Lisa Marie. What's up, Lisa Marie? She says, is there a bigger insulin response when you juice fruits over veggies, or not much because you've changed the structure? The response is the same. Whenever you change the structure, whether it's broccoli or an apple, celery or carrots, you're going to get a greater insulin response. That's it. That's it. Now, does that mean I'll never have a glass of orange juice? No. Does that mean I'll never have apple juice? No. But I do realize it's more important for me to eat the fruit, to eat the vegetable, than to drink the fruit or drink the vegetable. That's the take home. That will never change in our lifetime. This is how I'm able to help get a whole bunch of amazing results with people. I'm not saying never to drink something like a juice, but they learn this and they apply this the best they can. And we see some really good outcomes because of it. That's it. That's it. So you guys made a comment about more with 20 is bigger. I'm not sure what that means, but here's the deal, you guys. The further it is from its natural state, the more insulin you're going to secrete. That's it. Now help me help others. What do I need to say to get people to understand what I'm sharing right now? Because this is a game changer. It makes you want to eat things close to nature. So if I'm eating M&Ms, could I lose weight? Could I lose weight eating Twinkies every 3 hours? Yes, you can. Now, we don't know what kind of weight you're losing, but yes, you can. But is there more insulin being secreted? And then that's going to show up later with some other concern. Every time you eat, you have the potential of secreting insulin. And if insulin is circulating in your blood, you are reduced in your ability to let go of fat and burn it. That's it. Okay, so let me see. So before I move on, Lisa says 20 ingredients has greater insulin response than something with 3. Absolutely, yes. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. That's great. Okay. Oh, man, now this is a lot. So I'm going to go over this, and I'm going to go slow. Okay, so I want you to go at the very top. It says dehydration can cause fat gain. So my goal on this one page is to help you understand how that is. So we have a cutoff there. That means, did you know that being dehydrated can cause fatty liver, increased blood pressure, and weight gain? That's true. And what causes dehydration? The answer is not drinking enough water and having high serum sodium. So the less water you drink, the more sodium you have floating in your blood. The less water you drink, the thicker your blood is when you go to the doctor and they want to, use an IV and extract blood. It's thicker, it's harder. So the more water you drink, the better. Now, the key facts to know, number one at the top, it says fructose can cause you to store fat. Now, most people are like, oh man, high fructose corn syrup. Okay. High fructose corn syrup is totally different than fructose that you can find in a pear or broccoli or a banana. We're not concerned with natural occurring fructose that you get from consuming fructose. We're not even overly concerned with sucrose, which is regular table sugar that breaks down to 50% fructose and 50% glucose. But when you have an abundance of fructose, then we run into some serious problems. And that can cause you to store more fat. As you can see, number 2, it says your body can make its own fructose, which I'm going to explain. And dehydration is what stimulates the fructose production. So if someone's dehydrated and they're not drinking water, and every time they drink is coffee or it's like, soda, and they just never drink water, then it's very likely that they are creating fructose just because they're dehydrated in their own body. I also point out that fructose production stimulates fat storage, and fat production provides a source of water. And that's for survival, right? So the more fat you have, if you're in a situation where you don't have access to water, you will be able to make it longer than someone who doesn't have much fat, because ounce for ounce, the fat that gets metabolized for fuel, you're also getting water with that. So your own fat has water in it, and you can be hydrated from the inside, right? So when a bear goes into hibernation, that bear is like, I'm going to eat as much as I possibly can, gain as much body fat as possible before I go into hibernation for the next 6 to 8 months. And while that bear is in hibernation and has gained a significant amount of body fat, that bear is not drinking water. So how can it still be alive? It's because it's getting its water from the stored up fat that is burning. Now, we as human beings don't ever want to be in that situation, but I'm just giving you a points of reference to understand how you can get water from fat. And from a survival standpoint, our bodies will create and put us in a position to gain fat from a survival standpoint. Yeah, I mean, this is like really, really like some cool stuff. Okay, so let's get back to it. Now, look at the very bottom where it says 1. So this part, it says glucose in your body converts to sorbitol via aldose reductase. It's an enzyme. So in your body, you have all of these tissues, right? So you have glucose, which is pure sugar. Our body likes it. Our brain loves it. We run off of glucose. Glucose is a positive thing. You don't have to consume fructose in order for your body to have glucose in it. Because what I'm sharing right now with this one fact, that glucose in your tissues can convert ultimately to fructose. And the first step is sorbitol. Now, if you ever look at a product that has sorbitol, like there's gum that has sorbitol, there's a lot of pastries have sorbitol. Sorbitol is just one step closer to fructose. So once you consume it and you have it in your body, there's a very good likelihood that that sorbitol will become fructose. And then fructose plays a huge role in you gaining more fat in your liver and having negative impact on your mitochondria, meaning bringing down the ATP. Whole host of negatives will take place when you have an overwhelming amount of fructose. So whether you're consuming fructose or you're setting your body up to actually convert stored glucose that's already in your body to become fructose. Like when they look at all people with Alzheimer's, right, and dementia, they're seeing good amounts of fructose in their brain. Well, fructose doesn't go to the brain. How did it get there? All the studies are clear. It's because of this conversion. What is the primary reason for us to have this conversion from glucose to fructose? Dehydration. If you're not drinking enough water, you guys, and the timing of your water is not good, you will fall prey to this whole thing called a polyol pathway. So fructose will stimulate fat storage, which can drive fatty liver, blood pressure to go up, as well as unwanted fat gain. And there's another thing that they highlight here. If you look at number 4, high levels of the hormone vasopressin in the blood are linked to people with excess body fat. What is vasopressin? It's a hormone and it's produced in the brain. And when it's produced in the brain, it causes your body to conserve water. And vasopressin also uses fructose to drive fat storage and insulin. So what can we do for this not to happen? Is it drinking a gallon of water every day? No. It's really this simple. Drink a cup of water about 10, 15 minutes before you eat your meal. That will dilute the sodium in your blood, and it reduces the likelihood of this polyol pathway, this biologic switch, to be turned on. There is benefit to drinking water before you eat a meal. Even people who are somewhat dehydrated, if you just did this, you are way less likely to store body fat, and you're way less likely to be converting stored glucose in your tissues in your body to becoming fructose in your body, which is what we don't want. Okay, we're almost there, you guys. We are almost there. Okay, now this one is really interesting to me. And if you have any questions about what I just covered, feel free to ask. Again, everything that I'm sharing right here is located also in our on-demand for Food is Medicine. Now, this one is interesting because I talk a lot about people being indoctrinated. Like, how do we get to the place that we are today, right? Where people are just confused when it comes to nutrition. Like, how do we get here? Well, a lot of it has to do with the information and how we're indoctrinated. So there's a thing called the food compass that was created. And the food compass is where they take foods and they give them scores. So all the kids in school today are going to be introduced to this, or they're being introduced to this. And the government right now, they're pushing it really heavy. And you can see the obvious reasons, right? So when you look at this score, it goes from 0 to 100. The higher the score, the more they're encouraging you to eat it, right? So watermelon, canned peaches, Cheerios, pineapple, those are all pretty high. Orange juice with calcium, fortified calcium, chocolate covered almonds. And then if you look at the very bottom, you got an egg fried in butter, cheddar cheese, ground beef. They're demonizing. Interesting. Now, they're not basing any of this on what I just shared with you. This is, in my opinion, is all designed around keeping people in a position where they're buying and eating a lot of ultra processed foods. They're making it okay. And they're encouraging you to eat the apple pie instead of eating the apple. Okay. Now, you can see right there, non-fat chocolate frozen yogurt is considered something healthy by the government. I'm not listening to the government when it comes to this stuff, you guys. This is where we want to use our education. If we listen to the government, we would have been eating trans fatty acids, and we would eat seed oils on a regular basis. Not going to do it. The evidence is very clear, but it's important for you to know what's coming, what's taking place right now, so that you can educate your family and be aware that you're not going to fall prey to the marketing. You're not going to look at Cheerios as something that's going to be helping me, because it's very far from nature. You can see the chocolate covered almonds there. You can see the ground beef is low, the cheddar cheese. If you cook an egg, almost every day I eat an egg cooked in butter. And according to this food compass, they're telling me that I'm in the red area, and that's not good. Come on. Anyway, if you guys have, any, recommendations or any questions, feel free to bring them to my attention. Let me see here. How can they say Lucky Charms is better? Well, they're saying it. They're saying it. You can read the data. So they came up with their own algorithm on what they believe is ideal for health. And people are compromised. They're compromised. You have lobbyists in place, and the goal is to keep food supply moving. And all those foods that are sitting in the stores that's being made available to people, they're not all helpful. I mean, I was looking at the CDC, I think up until 2020, the CDC came out with a report where it was in excess of 50% of the food that people are eating, especially in under-resourced communities, is ultra-processed food. They're not eating broccoli. They're not eating an apple from a tree. They're not eating avocados the way we're eating it. They're buying and eating almost everything that is extremely processed. And remember, the more processed it is, the greater the challenge we have with elevated insulin. Today, 1 in 10 kids have fatty liver, whereas in 1979, no one had non-alcoholic fatty liver. Now we're like 25 to 40% of adults. And if you went over the age of 40 plus percent of adults in the world, not just America, not just Canada, have non-alcoholic fatty liver. I'm sharing with you, if this was a court case, I'm sharing with you exactly why it is the way it is. Everybody's wondering, what can we do about it? You read the stats, you watch the news reports, 60 Minutes comes on, everybody sees it, and a lot of us just keep doing what we're doing. And we're running with misinformation, and it's putting us in a situation where we're worse off. Anyway. Sharon says, I know you said you can't turn off the vasopressin switch once it's turned on, but how long does it take? I don't know how long it takes. I don't know. I just think that when you're in a storage mode, you're in it. It's kind of like insulin can be elevated 3 to 10 hours. We just don't know. So the goal, Sharon, would be to be as proactive as possible. Let's just make sure that we stay hydrated. Let me see. Lisa Marie says, so much corruption. Hopefully this will make people wake up. I mean, come on now. I'm with you. I'm with you, Lisa. Lisa says that sad part is that people will say, well, the government says Lucky Charms is healthy, and then they just eat it. Hey, I mean, we only got so much time here. And I look every day, I'm looking at the calendar and I'm realizing that. So I'm just going to make the most of it. And I'm going to keep sharing because I really do care. And I know you guys care. So we all want to keep sharing. Now, I wanted to quickly just go over a basics of a fat burning meal. And I'm going to start doing this pretty regularly, just grabbing different food because I'll post a picture like this and someone will be like, oh, so you can eat that and lose weight? They see the potato and they go, oh. When what they don't realize is that the way is balanced, right? So you have your protein source, which could be whatever protein the person wants. That looks like trout to me. Could be chicken breasts, could even be salmon, but I believe it's a piece of trout. So that would be my protein. That could be steak for you. It could be meatloaf. It could be bologna. You choose the protein you want. And then the potato is what we call a fast carb. And we added some butter and some sour cream to it. Okay, it's a little on the heavy side, but that can work. I mean, I don't go over the top when I have a potato and it can look like that. So that may not be. And then you have your broccoli, which is a slow carb. There's still room to squeeze some butter if you want, or lemon on your fish and your broccoli. And that's a balanced fat burning meal. You could eat that and drop some body fat. Okay. All right. Any questions before I say goodbye? Before I say goodbye. Woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah. Okay, let me see. Lisa says the sad parts of people. Okay, we've been there. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, dun, dun, dun. And for those of you who have grandkids, if you think what I'm sharing sometimes is overcomplicated, if you don't get them eating the way we talk about now, what do you think is going to be when you're not around to bring clarity to it? Like when I talk to my kids, more and more, I'm realizing that I need to really stress certain things. And when they see me make a fat burning meal, I may speak to it. I may make a comment about it. And I may just use the right terms and go, man, now see, that's a good looking fat burning meal. And I may have mac and cheese like I did last week, some chicken, which would be the protein. So the mac and cheese, the fast carb. And then I made some Brussels sprouts and they wanted asparagus. That was my slow carb. We don't double up on fast carbs. The only time my kids have seen me double up on a fast carb is when I have what we call a bonus meal. But it's mostly if I go to In-N-Out and I'm going to have a bonus meal, right? So I'll get or a boost meal. Sorry, not a bonus. I'll get my, burger. So I got the bread as a fast carb. And then I got my fries, which is a fast carb. But that's one meal a week that I do that. One meal a week. So, all right, let me take a look. Okay, Lisa says, thank you. Darlene, I'm glad you made it. Eugenia, I'm glad you made it. Dana, I'm glad you made it as well. So thank you guys. Feel free to watch it from the beginning to the end. There was a lot of nuggets that I just shared. And if you have not logged into our on-demand with the food as medicine, I strongly recommend you do that because once you're in, you can go at your own pace. You can watch and learn and put yourself in a position where you're more informed. And then when you're informed, you're less likely to fall prey to those who are misinformed, which is a lot of people. Okay. If you got questions, feel free to email me directly. My email is robert@dietfreelife.com or email my assistant, Lori, @dietfreelife.com. And that's Lori with an I, Lori. All right. Hey, you guys, enjoy the rest of your day and thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Until the next one. Peace.